Kyle, one of the things that you like to share around the office is that you have an econ degree from UCSD. You like to look at trends and numbers and facts and figures to really help guide our decisions. Today I want to talk about kind of understanding market trends, what to look at, how to look at it, and how do we use those trends to help advise our clients better.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into this today. I have a degree in econ, but the reason that that's valuable, every job I've ever had, I've always excelled, at least every sales job, I've always excelled, not because I'm like the smoothest talker, the best salesperson, have all the objection handlers. I've always outsold my competition because I just have more knowledge than them. And so, right, if you're watching this podcast, listening to this podcast, I want to share with you the knowledge that you need so that you can go out there and outsell your competition. Even though you might not be as experienced as your competition, you can outsell them because you have more knowledge than your competition. So that's what we're going to dive into today on the Whissel Way podcast. My name is Kyle Whissel, your host with eXp Realty.
And I'm Bryan Koci.
Goal to show is give you the tools, techniques, and tactics that you need to go out there and crush it in your business. The way that we like to do that is to answer the questions that you have for us. So if there's ever a question you want to have us answer on the show, we'd love to hear about it. You can submit it to thewhisselway.com. You can ask us questions on there, subscribe to the podcast and YouTube channel, join our referral network for all those people leaving California. I think I've given out like 5 referrals this week. Also, if you want to get some tips and tricks, we have an email newsletter and a private Facebook group you can join at that website. And lastly, if you're looking to level up your content creation game, audio, video, social, the whole nine, all that at thewhisselway.com. All right, let's roll.
So first off, let's talk about what stats we should know. You talked in the beginning here about knowing more than your competition, but on what level, right? Like what stats should you know, what stats are valuable, which stats are not valuable?
Yeah, let's focus on how stats are actually compiled. So we're recording this episode. It is the middle of July right now. Here's the deal. A lot of the deals that go under contract right now in mid-July, some of them are going to close in August. Some of them are going to close in September. Then what's going to happen at the end of September is you're going to have some statisticians take all the data from what closed in September, and they're going to put together a report, and then they're going to send that report out. Even our own local association of realtors doesn't get that report out to us until around the 10th. So our own association is going to give us that data on around like October 10th. Then the media is going to take the reports that come out. So whether it's from our association or other statisticians out there, they're going to take that report. Then they're going to put it out there on the news. So they're likely going to report that in like mid-October. Okay, so let's just make sure we're connecting these dots here. Is what's going under contract today in mid-July likely is not going to get reported on until like mid-October. There's a big lag there. The reason that occurs is that most of the media is taking these reports that are talking about sold data. So number of homes sold, median sales price to list price ratio, days on market, right? They're looking at all of these data points that we don't have until a property has actually sold. So if you're relying on sold data, especially sold data that's being reported by the media, you're often 3, 4, 5 months, because the media lags, 3, 4, 5 months behind what's actually happening in the market today. So first and foremost, if you could just explain that to somebody, you instantly just increased your credibility. Because they've been looking at this sold data the whole time. And when you can help them realize the data that they've been looking at is 3 or 4 month old data, you instantly just moved up a notch as far as the knowledge scale to that particular client. Whether they're looking to buy or sell, they're looking at you like, oh shit, nobody's ever told me that before, but that makes sense. Boom, like now I've just earned points. I've increased the probability of you working with me before I even dive into telling you any data. I haven't even given you data. All I did is tell you the data that you've been relying on is bad data. It's old data. So that's step number one, is just help people understand the data that they're using is bad.
Okay, so what data should they use?
So you should, those are what is often referred to in economics as lagging indicators, right? Because it's already happened. It's lagging behind. It's telling a lagging story of what's actually happening. We like to focus on leading indicators. The source that I like the most right now, subject to change always, but is Altos Research, A-L-T-O-S, Altos Research. What I like with Altos Research is that they will track a variety of data points. They will have a 90-day moving average and a 7-day moving average. I love not only seeing what's happened over a 3-month period, but also what's happened over a 1-week period. And then I can compare and contrast the two, because you're gonna have some weeks that are gonna be, spikes and dips and all that stuff on a 1-week chart. The 90 kind of smooths that out. But I love being able to see both of those points of data, and I like to see it based on what's happening in the market today. So there's 3 data points that I really like to look at that they provide. Number 1 is the number of properties with a price decrease. That's a really valid piece of data, because that's based on what's happened in the last week. How many properties have had a price decrease? That's really good freaking information. If we see that the number of properties with a price decrease is high or in an increasing trend, that's a good indication that buyers aren't willing to pay the price that these homes are listed at. The only way people are able to get their homes sold is if they decrease the price. Very good indicator that we're either in a flattening market or potentially even a declining market. So number 1, I look at the number of properties with price decreases. Number 2, I like to look at the median list price. List price, not sold price. Now, just think about this logically. In order for a property to sell, doesn't it have to list? Why are we looking at the sold price so much, which is a 3 to 4 month lagging indicator? Why not look at the list price? What happened in the last 7 days with the homes that were listed on the market for sale, right? You're understanding now, this is a leading indicator. Like, this is telling us the stuff that the media is not going to report for months from now. Let's look at the median list price. So we want to see, is that median list price increasing, which means people are realizing they can keep pushing the envelope and keep listing higher and higher. Great indication we're in an appreciating market. Is that flat or decreasing? Right now, again, we're mid-July. Here in San Diego, we've seen that we flattened out in June, and we've actually seen a slight turnover, a little bit of a decrease on that median list price here in July. Coincidentally, that first number we talked about, the properties with price decreases, that's increasing significantly right now. So what's happened is people have been watching that a lot of people are having to decrease their price to sell. As a result, people are starting to lower their list price because they don't want to have to decrease their price. So if you see that everybody else is having to decrease, you don't want to be stuck in that decreasing stat. So instead, you list your property a little bit lower. We literally just finished a meeting with the team today talking about this exact thing, is that we don't want to get caught having to have conversations with our clients over and over and over again. Oh, we're not getting any offers, we got to decrease the price. I don't know about you, but that's rarely a fun conversation to have with your client. So there's this strategy that I learned, a friend of mine, Chase, came up with, that a 2-minute offense prevents a 20-minute defense. If we could just spend 2 minutes up front, share this data with our clients of what's happening in the market, we can prevent this 20-minute defense of having to decrease our price over and over again. And again, the decreasing conversation is a tough conversation. The 20-minute defense. The 2-minute offense is an easy conversation because I'm just going to show them the data. Hey, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're seeing that a lot of properties are having price decreases right now, and people are listing their homes a little bit lower in order to give them a chance to sell. I'm assuming you don't want to be on that price decrease curve. Is that fair to say? Yeah, great. As a result, this is what I recommend we do. So we can get ahead of that conversation and have a 2-minute offense, help our seller understand this isn't the market to push above the last sale. This is a market to be in line with the last sale, maybe even a little bit below it. So second stat, median list price. Third is what they call the market action index. This is a relationship between the rate of sale of homes, obviously, versus the number of homes for sale. And that number, we're looking for trends there. Same thing, we're looking as that increasing, which means homes are selling faster than the amount of inventory for sale. So we watch for that to go in an increasing trend. Or right now, it's a decreasing trend because the rate of sale is slowed down and the number of homes for sale has gone up. As a result, that market action index is starting to fall. And that one's more than just churn. That's in a downward trend right now, a moderately downward trend. The median list price, slight downward. The market action index is a solid downward trend. And then the price decreases is a strong upward trend right now. So if I put all three of these together, the rate of sale in relation to the number of homes for sale is going down, median list price slightly going down, properties with a price decrease shooting up, that's a very, very clear indication that the market right now at best is flat. More than likely, we're seeing a little bit of a decline right now. And if I could show somebody this information, and I can provide them the charts, the graphs, the data points, all that, and explain it articulately to them, I'm going to win. Because especially if I'm going into, let's say, a listing appointment, and I help somebody, one, realize the data the other agent showed them is 3 to 4 months behind. And 3 to 4 months ago, our market in San Diego was red hot. If somebody's using 3 to 4 month old data, they don't understand what's actually happening in the market today. They're actually setting their seller up for failure. So when I can go in there and help the seller realize, hey, Bob Smith over there, he showed you some bad data, and here's why. It's a lagging indicator. Then I could show them, here's the leading indicators we look at, and here's what they're telling us. As a result, what I recommend we do is, I'm going to win. And not only am I going to win, I'm going to win the listing and get it at a price that it's actually going to sell. And you'll notice, hopefully you guys picked up on, I think I did it 2 or 3 times already during this podcast, is I act like a doctor when I'm at appointments or when I'm even setting appointments. Like everything I do, I ask questions, and then based on those questions, I do what a doctor does, is I make a diagnosis and then I prescribe a treatment. So I will tell them what I recommend we do is, same thing a doctor does. Hey, based on all this information, it appears you have the flu. What I recommend we do is you stay home a few days, you take Tamiflu, you drink liquids, right? They're gonna give you that prescription. Like I do the same thing with my clients. Like I'm the doctor. I actually make way more money than a freaking doctor, and I didn't have to go to school for 10 years to do it. I'm a doctor. What I recommend we do is, it's a very strong line that you should add to your arsenal because you're the expert. Tell your client what you recommend they do. There you go. You got any more questions, or are we done?
Yeah, no, I've got 2 more.
Okay.
One is, especially now, again, we're filming mid-July, we're coming up to an election.
Yeah.
I just did a podcast with Mike Proctor earlier today, and he talked about he's very in tune with what the different candidates have that's going to affect the real estate industry. What economic factors or what things in the election should people be looking out for that will affect the real estate market either positively or negatively?
Yeah, so our friends at Keeping Current Matters, huge fans of them. If you're not following the stuff that they put out, you're missing out. You need to have Keeping Current Matters, right? If we want to be the most knowledgeable person, they equip you with everything that you guys need to be the most knowledgeable agent in your area. So make sure, follow KCM, watch their YouTube videos. They can, if you want, you can pay them a few bucks and they'll give you all kinds of really cool marketing materials. One of those pieces they gave us recently was data about what's happened during election years. And what they find is there's not as much of a pullback in the market as people think leading up to an election. There is in the 1 or 2 months before the election, but not 5 or 6 months before. So this little pullback we're having right now in July is not typically election related. So that was part 1 they gave us. Then the other part is, let me see if I can pull this up because I want to make sure, just talk about something real quick, Bryan. I want to pull this election data up.
Yeah.
I want it to be accurate.
I don't know where we're going with this, but what I think is interesting, Mike and I talked about this earlier, and do you already have it?
I got it already.
Oh, never mind. Carry on.
This is what Kyle's really good at knowing where to find answers. Okay. So there's 3 pieces of data that KCM gave us. Number 1, the number of home sales went up after 9 of the last 11 elections. So pretty consistently, a month or 2 before the election, there's a little bit of a pullback in the number of homes for sale. But 9 of the last 11, which if you guys aren't good at math, that's over a 44-year period. 9 of the last 11, we saw an increase in the number of home sales in the year following an election. That's good. You should be excited about that as a realtor. There's probably going to be more sales. Second stat they gave us is home prices went up after 7 of the last 8. So over a 32-year period, 7 of the last 8 times after an election, prices went up. And the one and only time they didn't, oh, that was 2008. Weird. Wonder why prices didn't go up. Had nothing to do with the freaking election. Or maybe it did because we had bad economic policy. But the only time in the last 8 elections that prices didn't go up the following year was after 2008. So of course prices didn't go up. And then the third piece of data that KCM gave us is that mortgage rates decreased leading up to the election 8 of the last 11 times. So again, 44-year period, 8 of the last 11 times. I personally expect not only is this traditional, 8 out of 11, I don't know what's the math on that, it's like 70-something percent. Like there's a high probability that they would pull back regardless of what's happening in the economy. But you mix in what's happening in the economy now, we're starting to see the job situation come back into reality. We're starting to see inflation come back to reality. So there's already a lot of expectation you would see downward pressure on rates because of those things. But then you couple the election on top of that. If I was a betting person, I would be betting. I love to bet. So I'll find where I can bet on this. I would bet that you'll see rates pull back here in the next few months. So that's just based on historical data. And again, that's from our friends at Keeping Current Matters. So it's great to be able to have that. And if you could actually sit down with a buyer with a seller, like I have those 3 charts saved on my phone, hence why I was able to pull those up in 15 seconds. Like, what if you could do that when you're sitting with a buyer or a seller and you could have those 3 charts and they start telling you like, oh, the election, this, the election, that. I'm like, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is it okay if I just share some like hard data with you of what's happened during the last 8 to 11 election cycles? Yeah, that'd be great. Boom. And you could just share that data. Boom. Credibility through the roof when you can do that.
So I want to go back into the interest rates pulling back.
Yeah.
What are they hovering at right now?
So again, we're mid-July. Technically, we're early July right now. We're coming into a huge week. So today's July the 8th. And we have both CPI, which is Consumer Price Index, and PPI, which is Producer Price Index. Both are going to get reported this week. And Jerome Powell is going to speak this week. So you have like 3 huge things that are going to happen that happen once a month. Or Jerome, I don't even think he speaks monthly. So you have 3 big things that are going to happen this week. Based on what happens with those things, you'll have a very clear indicator of like where we're going with things. My personal belief is that you're going to see the inflation numbers come in favorably, which will drive rates down. So I think even by a week from today, so if we're sitting here on July the 15th, I think you'll have seen a good move in rates in a downward direction between July 8th and July 15th.
And so where are they hovering at now?
Right around, so if you look at like the Mortgage News Daily chart, which is the one that people seem to like be the benchmark that they always use. I think we all just want a benchmark, so that's the one that we use. It's right around 7% as of today. Now, if I was going to get a VA or an FHA loan, we're probably closer to 6%, but that's the number that everybody goes off. So today, I think last time I looked, it was like 7.03 or something on Mortgage News Daily when I looked this morning.
7.01 right now.
7.01, right? So I would venture to guess we crack through 7, get down into the high 6s within a week from today.
And then you said before the election, you expect, you predict.
In general, the rates tend to go down regardless of the economic conditions. So because of the economic conditions and what's going to happen with CPI and jobs and all that stuff, I think you'll see it pull back more. So I think by the time this year is over, we're talking about rates in like the mid 6s.
Okay, that's what I was looking.
Yeah. And then you asked earlier like about who gets elected. Who the fuck cares? I don't even know if the people that are running today are going to be the people that are on the ballot when all's said and done. All kinds of crazy stuff. So I don't even care. At the end of the day, the little bit of a pullback that happens is just there's not clarity in who's going to get elected. So people just wait until we have clarity. They don't care if it's the red person or the blue person who gets elected. Once there's just clarity, all right, this is the direction we're going, and everything gets back on track again. As we said, right? More often than not, the number of sales and prices increase more frequently.
Based on the previous data that you were talking about, what I'm hearing you say is the best time for a buyer traditionally to buy would be in the couple months leading up to the election, because that's before the prices increase, that's before a bunch of people get back in the market, and that's when the interest rates are going to drop down. So if someone says, hey, I want to buy, but I want to wait until after the election, this data is telling us traditionally, right before the election, the month or 2 is the time to do it.
So, which is great, Bryan, that you're saying this, because this is exactly what you want to help buyers do. You just want to guide them where you want them to go. So if you show them the data that home sales have gone up after an election more often than not, prices have gone up more often than not, and rates have decreased prior to the election. If you just show somebody those three charts and then you just say, so do you think it would make more sense for us to buy now or wait till after the election? And let them come to the conclusion. You don't always have to tell people. Let them come to the conclusion. Now they actually feel like you gave them some power. Although there's only one freaking answer to that question, right? It's we should probably buy now, not wait. So that's where data can be really beneficial to you. It's not you trying to sell somebody on it. You're just sharing the data and helping them come to a conclusion. So that's how I love to sell. Is if I can just give you the data, it's a pretty obvious decision to make.
Last kind of prediction. We've done a lot of predictions today, which is fun.
Yeah.
Where do you foresee the real estate market evolving in the next 12 months? Right? It's been since COVID. I don't know if anyone's guessed all of it right. It's been all over the map. But in the next 12 months, what do you see the real estate market going, and how do you see real estate agents needing to adapt to that?
I mean, nobody predicted that when we were like buying groceries and letting them sit outside for 3 days so they would like decontaminate before we brought them in the house, that would be good for the real estate market. Like, nobody predicted that. It's weird. Nobody predicted. And I don't know if many people have been accurate with any of their predictions since COVID, right? People have been all over the place. Personally, my belief is that you will see interest rates come down. Obviously, they've stayed higher than most people have expected for longer, but I think that we're already starting to see chinks in the armor that it's going to come down. The jobs rate, unemployment rate is going up. Inflation is starting to come down, right? All the trends are going in the right direction. And those two things, jobs and inflation, tend to be the number one drivers of mortgage rates. Well, mortgage rates then start to drive things from there. As mortgage rates come down, you're going to have more demand. People are like, oh, you're going to have more supply. Yeah, you are. But the supply is who's going to list, right? If you're saying that supply is going to increase and rates come down, who's the supply coming from? The supply is coming from the seller who's been waiting for rates to come down because they can't sell their current home and go buy the home that they want because the delta or the gap between their current rate and their new rate is too high. So they're waiting for rates to come down. Waiting for rates to come down so they can fucking buy. So sure, you're gonna have more homes hit the market, but the people who've been waiting to sell are selling so they can go buy because the gap is small enough now that they can stomach the difference in payment. So the majority of that new inventory that's gonna come on the market is gonna go gobble up a home off the market. So that's gonna be relatively neutral to the overall supply of homes for sale. But you're going to have a lot of people who've also been waiting for rates to come down that don't own a home, that want to buy. The rates are just too high. Those are called renters. They're also going to come into the market and they're going to start buying homes, which will ultimately decrease the supply of homes for sale or the overall inventory. Well, when inventory decreases, you tend to see prices increase. So if you're asking me, gun to my head right now, we're sitting here July 8th of 2025. I think you'll see a increase. Bryan, you don't understand these analogies.
No, we used to 2025. You jumped us ahead a year.
Yeah, well, I'm going a whole year from now. I'm going to give you a 1 year.
Okay.
I'm telling you, if 1 year from now, where are we going to be when we're sitting here? I think 1 year from now, you will see prices have increased nationwide, probably 5%. Plus or minus. I don't think you're going to see massive appreciation, but I think you will see appreciation. And then in some of the more desirable markets, especially the markets that were more negatively affected by COVID, like California, like New York, like Illinois, some of those markets where a lot of people left, there are people coming back to those markets. And if you're following the markets that benefited from COVID, Arizona, Texas, Florida, a lot of those markets are actually struggling right now. So I think in the markets that were more negatively affected by COVID, I think you'll see a little bit more appreciation. And in the markets that benefited from COVID, I think you'll see a little bit less appreciation.
But still appreciation?
Yes, but I would say they will be in the 0 to 5% range, and I think markets like us will be in the 5 to 10% range.
Okay. That's all I got.
Cool.
That was good.
All right, well, hopefully you guys got some value out of the show today. If you did, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. That helps out the algorithm. If you have questions for Bryan or I, throw them in the comments section. We will personally respond to all of those questions. And if you want more of our content on there, hit the subscribe button, the little notification bell. YouTube will do the rest. And if you are listening on a podcast platform, make sure to subscribe or follow the show. If you can write a quick little review, even if it's one sentence, those reviews are very valuable in the podcast world. So it would mean the world to us if you could spend a minute just to write a quick review and share your experience with the world. Before we wrap up the show, Bryan and I like to do something we call the Whissel Widget of the Week. This is something we utilize in our business. It saves us time, makes us more money, or just helps us have a little bit more fun. What do you got, Bryan?
Mine is something that existed on my phone for a long, long time, and I'm only now starting to use it, and I hope to use it a lot more. And as I was talking about this, I think we've done it before, but it's really neat, and it's utilizing your iPhone to create shortcuts. And what shortcuts do on your iPhone, when I first think of shortcuts, I think of like the desktop icon. You click on that and it opens a program. But what's really cool about what the iPhone can do is it can run multiple steps at a time to do your shortcuts. So, for example, say you have a smart house and you want to press a button and as you leave the house, and it closes your garage door, turns off all the lights, sets the AC to 80 degrees, whatever. Right? You can do another shortcut with your car where it turns on the air conditioning, lowers the windows, or you can do a ton of things, and a lot of the apps have shortcuts enabled to them. So if you just go into your search bar on your iPhone, type in shortcuts, it'll show you some pre-built ones, but then also you can build your own. And now I have an icon on my home screen with one tap of the button. I can get my car ready to go home.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Mine is one that I think everybody should have that they don't. If you don't have two-factor authentication set up for everything in your life, your email, your socials, all of the different things, anything you log into, you should check the security settings in whatever website, platform, app you're using, and check to see if two-factor authentication is something that they offer. Two-factor authentication means you have to authenticate who you are in two ways. One, via your password, and then two, via an alternate method. So you could set those things up to send you a text message. I don't prefer the text message option. The reason for that is somebody might be able to go in, get into your account, change it. I just don't prefer it. Most of them will offer you an option to use an authenticator app. So there's an app called Authenticator. There's a Google version, there's iOS versions, but get the Authenticator app and set it to where when you log into any of these vital things, that it requires you to get a code from the authenticator in addition to your password. And it just adds that extra layer of security. I don't know anybody who's had their email hacked or any of their socials hacked and slept good when that happens, right? It is an extremely stressful, traumatic experience. Sometimes you're getting extorted for money or other things. You don't want to go through that. If you can just take one extra little step up front, set up two-factor authentication for everything, add the Authenticator app, just kind of make that your place. That will save you a lot of unnecessary stress and anxiety and help you not get hacked, at least minimize the probability of you being hacked. So check that out, Authenticator. With that said, guys, I hope you got a lot of value out of the show. If you want to stay connected with Bryan and I, you can go to thewhisselway.com or connect with us on social at Kyle Whissel, at Bryan Koci. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Whissel Way podcast.
See you next week.